Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is another episode of In Other News, the news show where we sit down and we talk about the latest Everton news that we haven't already spoken about. Obviously we sat down earlier today and spoke about the Euros and specifically the final last night between England and Italy. We spoke about Jordan Pickford and the praise that Jordan Pickford should be receiving from pretty much every single football fan today for his fantastic performance, not just last night in the final, not just in the penalty shootout of the final, but also throughout the entire tournament as well. Jordan Pickford has been absolutely excellent. We also spoke about Brazil's defeat to Argentina in the Copa America final, and obviously Richarlison unfortunately being on the losing end of that. We spoke about Yerry Mina as well, and we just done an overall international roundup. There is a couple of transfer rumours that we didn't get into. Koulibaly has been linked with a move to Everton for the 425th time this summer. We've also been linked with moves for PSV right back Denzel Dumfries as well as Norwich right back Max Aarons. Heavily linked with Max Aarons obviously towards the back end of last season. The rumours sort of died down a little bit. Well, he didn't he? They completely went away, and obviously we were then rumoured with Denzel Dumfries whilst the Euros was on. The Max Aarons stuff was just completely, sort of pushed to one side. Well, today it has come up again, and England boss Gareth Southgate has been talking about Jordan Pickford as well. So let's get into all of the latest Everton news. We'll start with England boss Gareth Southgate, who's had some fantastic words to say on Jordan Pickford after his heroic performance in the Euro 2020 final last night. Gareth Southgate has said his place has been questioned, but he has constantly delivered, and this run of matches has been his best for us. He can do little more. A really outstanding tournament. He can be really proud. So Gareth Southgate there just again basically saying, the words that we're all saying really about Jordan Pickford, is that if there's one England player that pretty much couldn't have done any more last night to win that game of football, it was Jordan Pickford, saving 2 penalties in a penalty shootout, of course, against an Italian side who are very good at saving penalties, very good at taking penalties, including saving one from Jorginho, who's very clinical from the spot. Numerous big saves throughout the game as well. Was very unlucky for Italy's equaliser, makes an unbelievable save. If Harry Kane's a little bit more aware on the goal line, he probably gets that ball cleared after Jordan makes a fantastic save. And like I said, throughout the rest of Euro 2020 as well, not just yesterday, but throughout the rest of the games, Jordan Pickford has been absolutely unbelievable, keeping England in the tournament on a number of occasions with big saves and big decisions that he made, which were the correct decisions. And I actually agree with Gareth Southgate. I think this is his best period in an England shirt, although he's never let England down in the same way as that he kept England in the World Cup 3 years ago and ensured that England got as far as they did. Again, big part to play in the penalty shootout against Colombia in the quarterfinal of the World Cup. Jordan Pickford had a massive part to play in England's success in this tournament as well, and he's been absolutely fantastic, and I don't think any football fan, and certainly not any Evertonian, would disagree that Jordan Pickford couldn't do any more yesterday. He simply couldn't do any more than what he did. And was he let down by his manager and his teammates? Maybe some people would see that is the case, but one thing's for sure is that Jordan Pickford has shown himself, not just to Evertonians, because I feel like we all knew it, and this is what we spoke about on the stream earlier today. If you were an Evertonian watching that performance yesterday, you probably weren't very surprised, because Jordan Pickford was Everton's best player for the last 3, 4, 5 months of the season. He was absolutely outstanding. But Jordan's proved himself over the last 2 or 3 weeks to the rest of the nation and arguably the rest of the world that he is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And I don't exaggerate when I say that. He genuinely is in the top 3 to 5 best goalkeepers in world football at the moment. He's certainly in the top 2 or 3 best goalkeepers in the Premier League as well. So, fantastic tournament for Jordan. Unfortunately, it didn't end in a winner's medal, of course, which is devastating for him and for Dominic Calvert-Lewin and for the rest of the England team. But individually, I don't think you can fault Jordan Pickford whatsoever, and I don't think you can have a bad word to say about him. He was absolutely outstanding throughout the entire tournament. Everton have been linked with a number of players over the last sort of 24 hours or so, including 2 right backs. According to 90 Min, Everton are said to be in talks with both Norwich City and PSV over deals for Max Aarons and Denzel Dumfries. Everton want to improve their right back position this summer, and the 2 are primary targets. I highly highly doubt that Everton are in talks with PSG and Norwich to bring in both Max Aarons and Denzel Dumfries. They may be in talks with both PSV and Norwich City because those two are primary targets, as said on the article in 90 Min. But the way it's written sort of makes it seem like Everton are in talks to bring in both players at the same time. I highly doubt that's the case. I can't see Everton spending what would be probably 50, 60 million pounds on two right backs. I know we need to improve our right back situation, of course we do, but not that heavily, let's be honest. And again, like I said, it's a simple rumour to sort of make up, and I'm not saying that this rumour is made up. Obviously, there's been a lot of talks around Denzel Dumfries and Everton being interested in Denzel Dumfries, and that started even prior to his Euro campaign, really, his Euro 2020 campaign. He was fantastic in the Euros for the Netherlands, scoring a couple of goals and having a really, really impactful tournament, showing his quality as a forward-thinking right-back, as well as defensively. He was decent defensively, but going forward, he certainly showed us glimpses of an absolute really top class right back, and certainly got a lot of Evertonians excited. And obviously, you know, with that come, you know, the talk about his price tag, and when he's scoring goals for the Netherlands in the Euros and he's putting in man of the match performance after man of the match performance, you're sort of sitting there thinking that's another 10 million on his price tag, that's another 15 million on his price tag. Did it get to a point where it was right, okay, he's performed that well that Everton are probably not even in the conversation anymore? He was linked with Inter Milan heavily upon you know, the Netherlands' exit of the Euro 2020 championships. However, the rumour is still there that Everton are interested in Denzel Dumfries. We know, of course, Marcel Brands has got that Dutch connection and that connection with PSV, so hopefully that will work in Everton's favour. And I would love Denzel Dumfries to become an Everton player. I really, really would love Denzel Dumfries to become an Everton player. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Would we have to pay a little bit more now than what we would have had to pay 3 or 4 weeks ago before he kicked the ball for the Netherlands in Euro 2020? Probably, yeah, because at the end of the day, these international competitions are notorious for players boosting their prices up and for agents getting a little bit more out of players, you know, because they perform well in these types of tournaments. And Denzel Dumfries was a player Everton were interested in, or was certainly rumoured to be interested in, prior to Euro 2020. And obviously post-Euro 2020, he is a player that Everton is still interested in, but probably a player that's going to cost a little bit more money than what we would have first hoped. And the only thing I can say is hopefully this deal was further down the line than what we first thought prior to the Euro starting. Therefore, Everton have sort of got maybe a priority in getting the deal done. But it is just a rumour at the moment. We were heavily linked with Denzel Dumfries over the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. That quietened down a little bit with the Euros going on, and he started to be rumoured with various other teams around Europe as well. Now 90-minute reporting that Everton are in talks with PSV for Denzel Dumfries, which again doesn't massively surprise me because those talks seem to have happened previous, and that rumour seems to have kept on cropping up. Obviously there's a clear there's a clear want from Marcel Brands to bring in somebody like a Denzel Dumfries. We know Everton needs to prioritise bringing in a right back this summer, and I feel like once we bring in that first signing, be it Denzel Dumfries or somebody else, that's when the excitement is really going to start, because we've had Rafa Benitez come in as the new manager, great, that's over and done with now, we've moved on from that. We've had the kit launch, great, that's over and done with, we've moved on from that. We've had the Euros and Copa America and the international tournaments, that's done and over with, we've moved on from that. Now we need to start looking and focusing on bringing in some players as well, because ultimately that's the only way Everton are going to be any sort of success next season, as if we drastically improve this squad, because it's not good enough. We all know that. We can all see that. We all saw that last season. This squad isn't good enough to achieve anything sort of out the ordinary. Will we fight for European football? Potentially. Will we fight to finish in the top 6? Maybe. But personally, for me, if you were to say to me now, Cam, where do Everton finish next season? From this current day, the 12th of July at 4:45 at night, I'd say probably 8th, 9th, because we need serious investments, and hopefully that's the focus for Everton now. But interestingly, in that article from 90 Min as well, they also say that Everton are in talks with Norwich for right back Max Aarons. Now, Max Aarons was, of course, a name that was heavily linked with a move to Everton Football Club earlier on in the transfer window. Obviously, he had a fantastic season for Norwich in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago, dropped down to the Championship and was really impactful in Norwich's season in the Championship as well. They have been promoted to the Premier League, and there was a lot of strong rumours, like I said, a couple of months ago prior to Euro 2020 starting and prior to Carlo Ancelotti actually leaving Everton, which would have suggested that maybe Norwich City are wanting a little bit too much money for Max Aarons, and Everton aren't really willing to pay that much money. I remember sitting down myself and saying, look, if Everton have got a better alternative out there than for Max Aarons that would cost a lot less money, a lot less of a transfer fee, then I would rather Everton pursue that. We sat down with Tom, and Tom said very much of the same thing. T-Logic 1991. It'd be very difficult for Everton to go out and spend 45-50 million pounds on a right back this summer, and then go out and bring in a right winger as well, or a centre midfielder, or a backup striker for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And although right back is a massive priority for Everton to strengthen, we also know and understand that it's not the only priority for Everton to strengthen. If Everton were one right back away from being Premier League champions or being a bang on consistent challenger for Europe, then I'd say okay, go out and spend the 45 million or 40 million, whatever Norwich were asking for a couple of months ago for Max Aarons. But we're not there. We're a right back, we're a right winger, we're a left winger, we're probably a backup centre forward, maybe another centre half, maybe another centre midfielder. But effectively, other than left back and goalkeeper, we need a player in every single position on the pitch before we get to that stage, and spending that much money on a right back just isn't feasible for me. So I was happy for Everton to turn away from Max Aarons and say, okay, if you're wanting that much money, we've got a better alternative here who would cost a lot less. That better alternative might have been Denzel Dumfries, who now, ironically and in a proper Everton fashion, will probably end up costing more than what Max Aarons would have cost because of his Euro 2020 tournament and how successful that was individually as a player, not necessarily with the Netherlands, but certainly as a player he performed really well. And therefore, maybe that's why Max Aarons has come back into the conversation. That's why Max Aarons has come back into the discussions, because Everton are looking at it going, right, okay, we've got Max Aarons here who Norwich want 40 million for. We now have got Denzel Dumfries who PSV are wanting quite a considerable amount of money for as well, a lot more than what they originally wanted when we identified Denzel Dumfries as a better alternative to Max Aarons. And maybe also, again, just throwing potential situations out there. This mightn't be the case whatsoever. I'm just guessing at the moment, because that's all we can do with these types of rumours. But maybe also Norwich have looked at the Max Aarons situation and gone, right, okay, for as much as we want to make as much money on Max Aarons as possible, there's been a period of a month and a half, where Everton had clearly said, no, do you know what, that's too much money, we're not really interested. And nobody else has really come in for him and wanted to pay that much money. So maybe every other team that is looking at Max Aarons are thinking, yeah, okay, he's a great player, but he's not 45 million pound, which was some of the figures that were being rumoured a couple of months ago as to what Norwich were expecting for him. So maybe Norwich have taken a second look at it and gone, right, okay, if we want to sell Max Aarons and make a profit and afford ourselves some leeway with financial fair play in order to bring in some players, maybe we can't demand as much as we would have originally wanted to demand for Max Aarons, because teams aren't going to pay it. So maybe Norwich have come back to Everton and gone, actually, do you know what, 25-30 million, you can have him. And PSV have gone from whatever they originally wanted to probably a little bit more because of the Euros, and Everton now sort of weighing up both of those options. Or maybe Marcel Brands will look at both players and go, okay, fantastic players, but in the same way as that I identified Denzel Dumfries as a replacement to Max Aarons, or as an alternative to Max Aarons, because Max Aarons was going to cost too much, I've now got this lad here who I can identify as an alternative to Denzel Dumfries and Max Aarons. Obviously, we know Dumfries is a little bit older than Max Aarons, more experienced internationally as well, and I would probably rather Denzel Dumfries because of how well he performed at the Euros, and I think we need a player of that experience to come in at right back, and then we can bring in next year or the year after a younger right back to learn off Denzel Dumfries, because of course Max Aarons would be a massive risk, certainly for the amount of money we'd be paying for him. But again, look, who knows? That's just me completely, again, just sort of trying to figure out the various different situations in my head. This rumour might be complete and utter nonsense, and Everton might be in talks with either Norwich or PSV for either player. There might be no talks whatsoever. Everton might be focusing their attention on another player. Everton could well be focusing their attention on Denzel Dumfries, and Norwich have just sort of gone, right, okay, throw our name in the hat to try and spice things up a little bit, or Max Aarons' agent has thrown his name in the hat to try and spice things up a little bit. We know from various other rumours months ago that Everton and Denzel Dumfries are certainly, Everton are interested in bringing him in, and Marcel Brand seems to be a fan of him as a player as well. And hopefully we can get that deal over the line, because I'm fully on the Denzel Dumfries train at the moment. But that is the latest from 90 Min. They have suggested that Everton are in talks with both PSV and Norwich City over deals for Max Aarons and Denzel Dumfries. Everton want to improve their right-back position this summer, and the two are primary targets. Now, obviously, the two won't be brought in together. I would assume it would be one or the other. But again, let's wait and see. 90 Minutes also published an article earlier today to say that Rafa Benitez has asked Everton's hierarchy to sign Napoli defender Kalidou Koulibaly this summer. Kalidou Koulibaly once again rumoured with a move to Everton. I feel like Koulibaly's rumoured with a move to Everton every 10 minutes now. Obviously, he was heavily rumoured with a move when Carlo Ancelotti was the manager. Carlo Ancelotti working with Kalidou Koulibaly before at Napoli, of course, and that transfer seemed to make a little bit of sense. We needed the centre half at that point. There was a lot going around about Yerry Mina's future, and there still is a lot going around about Yerry Mina's future because of his contract situation. Obviously there was a lot made of Mason Holgate last season and whether or not he is good enough. Michael Keane in the same sense. We've got Ben Godfrey there, who's had a fantastic season, and I'm sure Ben Godfrey will be one of the two centre backs that plays consistently next season, or at least he should be, because he's been absolutely brilliant so far during his Everton career. But again, the rumours don't go away, do they? The rumours don't go away regarding Kalidou Koulibaly. Again, if you'd to ask me if I believe this one, I don't, to be honest with you. I think Koulibaly's agent, or maybe the team around Koulibaly, and maybe trying to, again, put his name in the hat for certain Premier League clubs to try and get him a move to the Premier League. A lot of footballers want to come over and play in the Premier League, and I think for the money that Kalidou Koulibaly would cost, 30 odd years old, he probably cost us upwards of 35-40 million pounds. I just don't think he's the right man for Everton. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Everton were one centre-back... Listen, Kalidou Koulibaly would improve Everton. Of course he would. He'd come in and he'd be a better centre-half than anybody that we've got at the football club. I 100% agree with anybody that says that. Absolutely. If we were one centre-back away from winning the league, or one centre-back away from being in the Champions League, or one centre-back away from being the best team in the country, I'd say, okay, go out and spend that money on 30-year-old Kalidou Koulibaly, because you might only have him for a season or two, but that season or two you might have him, he's the difference maker between you winning something and you're not winning something. Now, some fans would argue that Kalidou Koulibaly, if he come to Everton, will be the difference in Everton being in Europe and not being in Europe next season. I would strongly disagree unless we bring in a right back, a left winger, a right winger as well, a backup striker, maybe another centre midfielder. If we're going to bring all of those in and Kalidou Koulibaly, then yeah, potentially we might finish in Europe next season. But if we were to just bring in Kalidou Koulibaly, I don't believe he will be the difference between Everton finishing in Europe and Everton not finishing in Europe, because I think there's various other positions on the pitch that we need to improve more urgently than centre-half, and I think the money that we'd have to spend on Kalidou Koulibaly would mean that we couldn't improve those other areas unless we were to sell somebody big. There's this overriding sort of possibility that with all of these players that we're being linked with in all of these different positions that we need to improve on, there's this overriding possibility that nobody wants to think about that may become a reality, but hopefully doesn't become a reality, that Everton have to sell one of their key players this summer in order to improve every position and in order to bring in these players we want to bring in. Because at the moment, with FFP, we're simply not in a position to go out and bring in Max Aarons for 40 million, go out and bring in Koulibaly for 45 million, go out and bring in some of the other players that we've been linked with that are going to cost 30-40 million. We're not in a position to bring all of those players in unless we sell, and at the moment it looks like Moise Kean will be staying at Everton at the moment. At least Rafa Benitez doesn't want to loan him out, and look, PSG might come in with a bid for Moise Kean, or some other team might come in with a bid for Moise Kean, and we might sell him, and that might give us a little bit more leeway with FFP. But let's say nobody comes in for Moise Kean, that overriding, like I said, thought that's in the back of our mind that we just want to keep going. It's like that bad sort of feeling on your shoulder, that devil on your shoulder that you just keep going, shut up you know, that'll never happen, go away, I'm not listening to you. But that sort of devil on the shoulder saying, what if you've got to sell a Richarlison or a Calvert-Lewin or a Pickford or a Dean? And I don't think we will have to do that, and hopefully we don't have to do that, because that would be a right shame. But in order for Everton to spend the money that some journalists and some publications believe we're going to spend this summer, that would have to be the case unless we were to manage to sell Moise Kean for a considerable amount of money, and at the moment that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. So I can't see Koulibaly coming to Everton personally, because I just don't think, like I said, by the time Koulibaly, if Koulibaly was coming in and we were one centre-back away from winning the league, fine, great, but he'd be coming in and you probably get a season, maybe 2 seasons out of him, maybe 3 max, before he sort of starts to tail off and maybe wants to leave or retire or whatever. And I think it's going to take Everton 2 or 3 seasons at least to become a team where, we're challenging in Europe and we're challenging for trophies. And I just don't think Koulibaly's at the right stage of his career. But there you go. Everton, according to 90 Min, have been linked with Koulibaly again. They have said that Rafa Benitez has asked Everton's hierarchy to sign the Napoli defender. So we'll wait and see how that one goes. In other news, it is James Rodriguez's 30th birthday today. A big happy birthday to James Rodriguez. We hope he has an absolutely fantastic day, of course. Again, an absolutely fantastic footballer. Hopefully he stays at Everton and hopefully we see a lot more of him next season, but we do wish him a very happy 30th birthday and can't wait to see him in the training pitches and the training videos a lot more over the coming days and weeks, to be honest with you. Everton confirmed yesterday that they have completed the signing of Swedish defender Natalia Bjorn and Swedish forward Anna Anvegard. Bjorn joins Everton on a 3-year contract for an undisclosed fee, whilst Anna joins the club on a 2-year deal. So welcome to Everton to Swedish defender Natalia Bjorn and Swedish forward Anna Anvegard. I really apologise if I butchered those names, but they are 2 fantastic players and will undoubtedly improve the Everton women's team going forward into next season. So welcome to Everton to Anna and Natalia, of course. Obviously Everton had a friendly on Saturday afternoon, which was a little bit of a surprise to a lot of us. Accrington Stanley randomly tweeted out on Saturday evening that they'd lost their first pre-season friendly to Everton 3-0, and it was sort of like, oh right, okay, that happened, did it? Because Everton didn't mention it whatsoever. We know, of course, that Anthony Gordon, Lewis Gibson and Tom Cannon were the goal scorers in that 3-0 victory. Jean-Philippe Gbamin featured and played a beautiful assist to Anthony Gordon for his goal. James Rodriguez featured and wore the number 10 shirt, which was amazing to see. I think Gylfi Sigurdsson also wore the number 10 shirt, but we'll let that one slide. And overall, it was just a good chance to see the players in the new kit. Obviously, they wore the new home kit, which was released on Friday, which was amazing. João Virginia was rocking the new goalkeeper kit, which just looked absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, it was just a nice opportunity to see the players get out there and play again. I think the highlights have gone on YouTube as well, so they're available to see. I don't think Everton are classing it as an official pre-season friendly. It's just a behind closed doors game at the end of the first week of training, I believe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're playing a game of football, you want to win, and Everton were victorious by 3-0. So fantastic, and hopefully we see a lot more of the likes of James Rodriguez, Jean-Philippe Gbamin, Anthony Gordon, etc. in the coming days and weeks as well in training. And Moise Kean also returned to USM Finch Farm on Saturday afternoon. He wasn't part of that game because I believe it was his first day back, but I'm sure he'll be training today and for the rest of the week. So hopefully we see Moise Kean in action in an Everton shirt in the coming days and weeks as well. We are going to talk about Moise Kean, by the way, over the next couple of days, because I think he's a real interesting talking point, and I think he's a talking point that we can all sit down and sort of talk about. What if Moise Kean stays at Everton? What if, Rafa Benitez has a conversation with him and decides that he wants to utilise him, he wants to use him next season, and Moise Kean's happy with that? I think it's definitely a conversation that is worth having. The Mirror reported, of course, yesterday that Everton are interested in Newcastle United winger Alan Saint-Maximin. Everton could make a £50 million move for, not 50 billion, £50 million move for the French winger if Real Madrid come in for Richarlison. I don't really believe that. To be honest with you, I don't really believe it. Again, I think it's a very easy rumour to make up. Alan Saint-Maximin, of course, worked under Rafael Benitez before at Newcastle, I believe, and I think he's worked under Rafael Benitez, didn't he? I might be wrong there. And it's just, like I said, a very simple rumour to bring up. He is a very good player, don't get me wrong, technically very good, quick, physical, and he's a handful, and some would argue he's exactly what we need. For me, I think he's, again, I think his injury record is a little bit worrying, certainly for that amount of money. And I also, again, I just don't think he's the type of player that Everton should be spending £50 million on. And I think there's a lot better players out there for a lot cheaper than what Alan Saint-Maximin would cost. And obviously Alan Saint-Maximin would cost that amount of money because he's playing in the Premier League, and he's quite known to Premier League football. So again, I don't really believe the rumour anyway, and even if it was true, I wouldn't be massively happy with it, because I think there's better players out there that Everton could bring in for a lot cheaper. And a little bit of sad news to end the video on. Obviously, former Everton player and coach Jimmy Gabriel sadly passed away over the weekend. Jimmy played over 300 games for Everton, scoring 37 goals and being a part of the title-winning team in 1963 and the FA Cup winning team in 1966 as well. So rest in peace to Jimmy Gabriel, who unfortunately did pass away. Very, very sad news, of course. And yeah, just gutting, really, absolutely devastating news. Obviously, again, a massive figure at Everton Football Club. Oh, not just in the 60s, but also very recently as well, being a coach. So yeah, rest in peace to Jimmy, and our thoughts go out to his family and friends at such a difficult time. And that's it for this episode of In Other News. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Loads more content coming up over the next couple of days or so. We're going to talk about Moyes' scheme. We're going to talk about James Rodriguez. We're going to talk about who I believe Everton should keep and sell and buy and move on, and all of those good stuff, as well as any news that comes in regarding transfers. The Euros is over now, international football's over, and we can finally start looking at club transfers and who Everton are going to be bringing in and who's going to be leaving Everton and this, that and the other. The exciting stuff starts now that we can put that sort of international despair behind us, shall we say. But anyway, big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We'll be back tomorrow with another live stream, so join us for that one. Massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.